Oof. Are you an overhead athlete dealing with some shoulder labral issues? Follow along this video and we'll break down the best exercises for this issue today. Hey Prehabbers, welcome back to the channel. This is Dr. Arash, and today we're going to talk all things labrum, the shoulder labrum specifically. So what is the labrum? The labrum is a type of connective tissue known as fibrocartilage. It's situated in between the glenoid or the socket of the shoulder and the ball, which is the head of the humerus. Essentially, the goal of the labrum is to deepen the socket while creating more stability for that shoulder joint, which inherently is a very mobile joint, as you can see how much motion my shoulder has. Think of it like a golf ball on a golf tee, where there's this really big head of the humerus, which is the ball, on a really small tee, which is the glenoid cavity. And if I have a little bit of a labral tear, I have much less stability because the congruency is less. So if you can see this, no labrum tear, a little bit of a tearing, I have much more motion, which is why strengthening is so important for these types of issues. Now, in general, we can break down labral issues into one of two different categories, one being compressive, the second being traction. With compressive labral injuries, often this occurs after a bout of shoulder subluxation or dislocation. Maybe even someone falls on an outstretched arm, which creates a lot of compressive loads to this area. Now, if this happens, this can result in some type of labral tearing or detachment of the labrum from that socket itself. These type of injuries happen often with individuals that have more loose or hypermobile shoulders to begin with. So that's compressive. The other type of injury for the shoulder labrum is a traction type injury, which is also known as a peel back mechanism. Often that happens when someone goes for a throw or repeated throws in this shoulder abduction and external rotation position. This puts a lot of stress on the shoulder and also the bicep tendon. Now the bicep tendon, specifically the long head of the bicep, attaches onto that superior aspect of the shoulder, the glenoid cavity, which is what causes that peel back mechanism. And that's why if someone goes for repeated throws over time, they'll notice that their shoulder starts getting irritated. This is because of that peel back mechanism. Now with either of these two issues, the solution is going to be find ways to actively improve stability. Because if we've lost a little bit of that passive stability, now we really have to rely on the muscles around that area to provide more active stability and make sure your shoulders stay strong so you can do the things that you love. Now let's go through 4 exercises that will help with shoulder labrum issues. All right, here are the 4 exercises for shoulder labrum rehab. Exercise number 1, we'll get on the floor. Actually, this is the only mobility drill that we're going to be doing. And what I want to focus on here is getting shoulder external rotation, which is often limited, especially post-operatively. So, and it's also a vulnerable position for injury in the first place. So we want to make sure to gain that motion and also have control throughout that range of motion. So what I'm doing here is actually using a dowel to assist me in getting that shoulder external rotation. And I'm starting here at 0 degrees, and I'll slowly work my way up to a higher position of shoulder abduction until I can get to that 90 degrees of shoulder abduction and work into external rotation at the same time. And if you want to get even more motion, go off of an elevated surface like a bed or a couch and hang your arm off of the edge, and this will allow you to gain more motion. Now, key here is to make sure the shoulder doesn't pop forward as you do this. The shoulder stays centrated in that socket. So keep it inside that socket. Don't let the shoulder pop forward. That's number 1. Exercise number 2 is where we start building up capacity and strength of the shoulder. Now, this is a great exercise. We'll use a kettlebell here because we're, first of all, on the floor where we're creating a co-contraction of all the muscles around the shoulder blade because we have feedback from the floor. Now, once you feel strong and stable, you want to make sure that you can balance on one arm, go from side to side, make sure you have that single arm stability. And if that is achieved, the next step is doing a kettlebell pull through, which is a great exercise for building up that shoulder stability. So make sure the shoulder blade stays strong, lean onto one arm, grab the kettlebell, and pull it across as far as you feel comfortable. The further you pull it across, the more this arm is gonna have to lower and reach towards this side to pull back across the opposite direction. And this is going to build up everything around that shoulder. We'll just go through a few reps of this. Make sure the core stays strong as well as you do this. This is a full body exercise. Do a few reps and you'll notice that. You wanna make sure the core stays engaged. You don't lean onto the opposite side like this. The core stays strong, the hips stay level, and you allow the core and shoulder to work together. Now, exercise 3, let's take that kettlebell and this time go into a 90-90 position of the shoulder and the elbow. Now, when you're in this position, key things to focus on is wrapping your triceps into your armpit, allowing that scapula to stay strong and stable. You don't want to allow for this forearm to flare out. This should be perpendicular to the floor, your forearm should be directly going up and down as you hold the kettlebell, and your scapula should stay strong and engaged. So you're gonna hold in this position with the kettlebell inverted. Now it's easier to hold with the kettlebell not inverted, but if you really want to challenge yourself, get the kettlebell inverted, hold this position, and if you're stabilized here, now take a few steps. And this will really make it challenging from a stability standpoint, but you're also getting a little bit of perturbations by moving back and forth. So that's exercise 3. The last one is actually using a band. And what I want to focus on is getting that shoulder internal rotation strength in this 90-90 position. So on one end, I'm working on range of motion by going through the full range. On the other end, I'm also building up strength by going against this resistance throughout the entire range of motion. And I want to make sure that I'm controlling this, especially as I go back. This is that same mechanism that I talked about with the peel back mechanism. You want to make sure to keep your muscles strong and stable. You don't want to allow for the shoulder to pop forward and the arm to stay relaxed. You want to keep engagement throughout that entire motion and go as low as you can. And once you feel comfortable while doing this slow and controlled, you can start beginning to add a velocity-based component to the movement where you're actually putting some speed into it. And you'll notice the front of the shoulder will really feel worked as you do this. So those are the 4 exercises building up strength around the entire shoulder area. And you can see how active stability is so important, especially after some type of labral issue. Now, if you're looking for more shoulder exercises, we have a full playlist of all different types of shoulder exercises, from control to strengthening to improving more mobility. Check out the playlist over here. And we do have an entire program dedicated towards building up your shoulders. So if you're looking for a progressive way of building up your shoulders from ground up, check that link right over here as well. Until next time, I'll see you next week.
Hey Prehabbers, if you enjoyed our content, go ahead, like and subscribe.
Or better yet, head over to our website in the description below and check out the dozens of programs that we've created to help you take control of your health today.